Despite there being a solid amount of hype for the show before it came out, Insomniacs After School didn't really remain in the consciousness of the anime community after it ended last spring. And I have to wonder why it didn't really take off. And hopefully, by watching this video, I'll convince you to check this show out, because I really, from the bottom of my heart, believe this show is deserving of a watch. One thing I truly adore about this show is its atmosphere. It is relaxing and has a lot of really nice visuals. And even though it doesn't necessarily go into the realm of being an Iyashikei, given the subject matter it focuses on, it still has a number of those vibes. And it really knows how to craft a scene to have strong visuals, background music, and strong directing all in one solid package. There are a number of scenes in this series that will stay with you long after you've finished it, simply because of how they're coordinated, how they're shot, how they're constructed. You can feel the passion oozing out of every scene. You can tell the people behind it loved what they were doing and knew that they had a point to make with this show. But what exactly is that point? That insomnia is bad? Well, it's a lot more involved than that. The characters in this series, especially our leads, Nakami and Magari, are incredibly relatable. Even if you cannot directly relate to what they have gone through, and even to being an insomniac, you don't really need to understand where they're coming from and feel compassion towards what they've gone through. I think everyone at their core has experienced some of the trauma, some of the feelings that these characters have had to struggle through. The whole idea behind this show is that both of these characters are insomniacs and really struggle with finding a place to sleep. But at their school, they find this observatory that the school doesn't really use too much, and they decide, what if we just use this as our little hangout place and a place where we can maybe find a way to sleep? And ultimately, they're able to do that. Now, of course, through being found out by the teachers and everything, they eventually have to turn it into an actual club revolving around astronomical observation, and that becomes a large part of the story. But the core idea of understanding why these characters have become insomniacs is the main thread pulling everything together throughout this series. Both of these characters have experienced trauma, both in the past and through to the present. Trauma that has made them genuinely afraid of going to sleep. And the central idea behind it doesn't make a lot of logical sense, but it does make, I would argue, emotional sense and psychological sense. And while the characters may not directly articulate it in this way, in essence, they, especially Nakami, feel as though if they do not sleep, if they do not let the day shift from today to tomorrow, things may not be so bad. Because of this trauma in his past, where waking up one day, everything changed for him. If that transition from night to day, from today to tomorrow, never happens, it's almost as if today just keeps going, like on and on and on. And in that case, maybe that trauma, maybe those awful experiences that he woke up to and may continue to wake up to in the future, maybe they'll never happen. Now, of course, we look at that and we think, well, that doesn't make any sense. Of course, from a logical perspective, that doesn't make sense. But from a psychological perspective, I think it makes total sense, because it's a way of forcing control over an uncontrollable situation. And people who have suffered trauma, especially more than anyone, need to feel like they can have control over something. And if you can avoid going to sleep and avoid that transition in your mind of today to tomorrow, and if you think that will prevent something awful from happening, you're going to do it, because it will be you controlling the situation. Now, you aren't really controlling it, but in your mind, it feels like you are. And I think that's an incredibly relatable situation to be in, this feeling of fear of the unknown, fear of what may come the next day, this feeling of not wanting to let it happen, not wanting to let today slip through your fingers, and just not wanting to wake up and find yourself in a situation you have no control over, where things are going from bad to worse. This desire to stay in the present, which may not be ideal, but might still be better than what will come in the future. In essence, that fear of tomorrow is driving the insomnia. And even if you have not gone through that to the point of having insomnia, you can almost definitely relate to the feeling of the fear of tomorrow, the concern over not knowing what's going to happen, over some situation that you're afraid of getting worse, or something new happening out of nowhere and making things worse. At some point in your life, you're going to be afraid to go to sleep. Even if it's just as simple as not liking that loss of control you have over your mind. When you go to sleep, your consciousness is kind of being turned off for a while. You're at the mercy of whatever your dreams put you through, whether they make sense, whether they're nonsensical, whether they're nightmares. And for however many hours, you do not have control over what's going on. You don't have control over what's going on in your mind. You're not able to think things through. You don't know what you're going to wake up to. That is genuinely kind of terrifying. Now, a lot of us will look forward to sleep because it is this way of us temporarily turning off all of the annoyances of the world. But not everyone's going to feel that way. If you feel like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, but I'm going to wake up and everything's going to be mostly the same, it's not really something you're going to fear necessarily. But if you go to sleep and you're afraid things are going to be worse when you get up, it's going to make people not want to go through it, not want to turn themselves off and take away any control they have over things, even if it's only for however many hours. That idea really does resonate with me because I know I've been in situations like that, even though I've never really been an insomniac. And I, again, think even if you have never been an insomniac, you can relate to what these characters are feeling, what they are going through, even if the specific situations that are traumatizing Nakami and Magari and causing their insomnia are not things you have gone through personally. You don't need to relate to these characters and resonate with what they're feeling throughout this series. And these characters and their growing bond throughout the series is honestly one of the best paced romantic developments I have seen in recent anime. The characters don't know each other well prior to the beginning of the series, and seeing them become friends and ultimately develop feelings for each other and become something more by the end, it is so well handled. They aren't rushed together, but the show doesn't drag it out either. They get together at the exact right time, and their bond, their growing closer together, ties in very well with their insomnia, because ultimately it's not about finding a specific location necessarily where they're going to be comfortable sleeping. Like, yeah, that might be part of it, and certainly finding the observatory helps them with sleep. But really at its core, the thing that makes them feel like they can go to sleep is each other. That's when they feel comfortable enough to go to sleep. It's not about the location, it's about being with each other. That's what gives them the calmness, the peace of mind to be able to want to go to sleep, to be able to relax and not fear what's going to come tomorrow. Because there is at least some sense of security. At least they will have each other. They'll be able to get through it. It makes the future feel less scary. And in addition to all that, they also have their club activities through the observatory. Taking all of these pictures of celestial observations, it really helps to set the mood of the show and goes a long way towards crafting those powerful scenes that I was talking about earlier. And being in this club gives the characters some additional structure to their lives. They now have to go to all these places to get their pictures. They have to plan out trips. They have to enter into competitions. They have to plan events. And maybe those things don't work out all the time. They have to struggle with that. It gives them much more to focus on for tomorrow, things to look forward to, things to be happy about, things to work towards, goals to achieve. And all of that, combined with having each other, it helps them to fight through their insomnia and ultimately, little by little, start to overcome their trauma. And it also gives viewers plenty of things to enjoy in this series. You have the romance, you have the relatable trauma that they're going through, you have the atmosphere, you have the stellar direction, but you also have something, I guess, a little bit more essential to a lot of anime. This, hey, they're going to start this club and they're going to have to go through all these ins and outs and learn what they need to do and go on these trips. If you like that type of show where characters get involved in something and you learn something new about it, you have that too. There's a lot in this series, and I think it will appeal to a great number of people if they give it a chance. Now, why exactly did this kind of slip through the cracks from spring 2023? Well, I think ultimately it's a pretty simple answer. That was a very big season. There were so many mega popular shows that came out that season that I don't think this, even though it had hype going into it, was able to stand up to them. And also, The Dangers in My Heart came out that season, and that was a much more popular romance series once it started going. But that doesn't mean this show should be forgotten. It is a fantastic romance that offers so much on top of that. I think watching this series will not only leave you with a satisfying romance story, but also a lot of very memorable scenes that are well directed, a very chill and atmospheric vibe, and ultimately a lot to think about regarding trauma and what exactly people can be afraid of. So Insomniacs After School has my full recommendation. It is a show that I really, really enjoyed. It is one of my favorite shows from last year, and I really wish more people remembered it and talked about it and just watched it in general. And I hope that if you're watching this video and you haven't seen the series, that I have piqued your interest in it and have encouraged you to check it out. Because I think if what I have mentioned so far has made you interested in it, you are not going to be disappointed when you finally check it out. This is a series that needs to be remembered. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and until next time, take care everyone. Look forward to the next video.